Hi, welcome to the Tale of Seven Dragons, told by Catherine from Period 4. First, let me have some introductions. This is a Planet X, and on Planet X, there are 17 purebred dragons. With the help of humans, these dragons were able to mate with different breeds much more easily. First, let me talk about my F3 dragons. Her name is Red Boy. She is a female, but I name her Red Boy to make she more special. She is an F3 generation dragon born as a result of the crossbreeding caused by human on planet X. She is a hybrid dragon, but her pedigree shows that she has many traits that is passed from her parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents to her. There are two phenotypic traits that are noteworthy about Red Boy. First is her fire breathing, and second is her five toes. Fire breathing follow the normal Mendelian genetics. This means that by having fire breathing, she can have either the heterozygous dominant capital F little f or the homozygous dominant capital F genotype, but the total number is an incompletely dominant trait. This means that for having five toes, she must have the homozygous dominant capital T genotype. Then let's talk about my F2 laughing dragon. One of the F2 generation parents of my F3 dragons was a male red dragon who also has five toes. Because having toes is an incomplete dominant trait, so the phenotype of five toes was created by having a homozygous dominant capital T genotype. Because she was he was a homozygous, so he could only donate the dominant allele capital T, and of course my F3 dragon received the dominant allele, which is capital T, from its dad, the F2 generation. Next, let's talk about F1 generation Thermal. She is one of the F2 generation's parent from one of the F2 generation's parent is the F1 generation dragon, which name is Thermal, was a proud female green dragon who only had four toes. As I already said before, toes number is an incomplete dominant trait, so the phenotype of four toes was created by having a heterozygous dominant capital T little t genotype. Because she was a heterozygous, so she could have donate either the recessive allele little t or the dominant allele capital T, and my F3 dragon received the dominant allele capital T. Next is my P generation called Commodore World. She is one of my F3 generation great grandmother. She was a purebred brown female green dragon who only had 3 toes. I want to repeat this one more time is that toe number is an incomplete dominant trait and the genotype for having 3 toes is a homozygous recessive 2t genotype. And because she was a homozygous recessive, she could have donated the recessive allele. And of course, my F1 dragon received the recessive allele, t. Okay, now let's talk about Polynesian windsurfer. As one of the F2 generation parents of my F3 dragons, which was a hybrid female dragon who had fire breathing. Fire breathing followed the normal Mendelian genetics, so the phenotype of exists. Fire breathing was created by having either homozygous dominant F or heterozygous dominant F genotype. And according to the result, she had the heterozygous dominant F genotype. Because she was a heterozygous dominant, so she could have donated either the recessive allele excuse me. She could have donated either the recessive allele f or the dominant allele F, and my F3 dragons received the dominant allele F. Next one is a cannolier. Cannolier is one of the F1 generation parents of my F2 dragons, which was also a hybrid male dragon who had fire breathing too. As I said before, fire breathing followed the normal Mendelian genetics, so the phenotype of having fire breathing was either homozygous dominant F or heterozygous dominant F genotype. And she had the homozygous dominant F genotype. Because she was homozygous dominant, so she could only donate the dominant allele F, and of course, my F2 dragon received the dominant allele F. Last but not least, an Amazonian dragon, one of my F3 generation ancestor, was a purebred male dragon who didn't have fire breathing. Fire breathing followed the normal Mendelian genetics. The phenotype of absence of fire breathing was created by having a homozygous recessive genotype f. Because he was a homozygous recessive, so he could only donate the recessive allele f. And of course, my F2 just have only one choice, that it received the recessive allele f. Next one is also a special one. It's the jewel eyes. Jewel eyes is a sex-linked trait which is based on the dragon gender. If it is male, it can only has one allele, but if it is female, it can carry two alleles. For this trait, my F3 don't have dual I, but it is a carrier. Capital J, little j for female. None of my 7 dragons had dual I, but there are 2 that are the carrier. Beside my F3 generation, my P generation was also a carrier. So look at the Punnett square below. It shows the probability of my F1 getting the recessive allele from its mother. You can see that on top is the genotype of its mother. Also is my P generation, and on the side is the F1 dad, which is my P generation mating partner. You can see that my P generation have the heterozygous recessive, no, heterozygous dominant, capital J, little j, which is the carrier, and the its mate partner is only have the capital J. Excuse me. So you can see this JJ will create a capital J, capital J, capital J, little j, create a capital J, little j, an absence of one allele, and J is only J, and the absence of one allele with little j is only little j. Normally, my F1 had 25% of receive a recessive allele from its mother to have to become a carrier. But when it is a female, the percentage is increased to 50%, which it can either have the homozygous dominant or the heterozygous dominant. But unfortunately, it received the capital J, which is the other 50%. So my F1 generation cannot become the carrier of the dual eyes. Unfortunately. Yeah. So also I want to say one thing is that the fire breeding, the five the total numbers and the dual eyes are not the co-dominant trait, but the other trait of the dragon that are co-dominant is the X color, which there are the chance to have the mixed color between white and gray. Yeah, the end. Homologous